Well, you guys who have been following the program for a while certainly are aware of this old classic. Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, to be specific. Silence when you have something to say is a lie, and tyranny feeds on lies. Of course, it's easier in the moment to stay silent and avoid conflict, but in the long term, that's deadly. These aren't just words that he spoke. This happens to be a maxim that he lives by. And as a result of that, silence was pretty much forced upon Dr. Peterson. See, he was guilty of wrongthink and thought crime, and the previous owners of Twitter banned him from the platform. They also banned Babylon B, satire site, for basically stating the same unpopular opinion. So, tyranny feeding on lies, silence when you have something to say. That silence was thrust upon him. But this week, that's right, our boy Elon put Jordan B. Peterson back on the platform, along with some others that we're going to get into here in a second. But the salient point is this: the breakdown, the meltdown, the hysterics, and the histrionics in the Twitter sphere for Elon reinstating Jordan B. Peterson were nothing less than apocalyptic. In fact, putting Peterson and others back on, well, it was just the end of the world. Or, our favorite go to, come on, say it with me, kids, we all know, an existential threat to democracy. Yes, all civilized behavior is going to go out the window. What a moral panic that Jordan B. Peterson has a platform on Twitter. This from the same group of people that didn't have any problem with this murderous asshole having a Twitter account after damn near chopping the head off a woman, or this guy having a Twitter account. See, the gentleman in the left frame there is a fellow by the name of Issei Sagawa. Through a technicality in the laws of extradition, he left France after eating the woman on the right. I don't mean in that, oh, yeah, daddy, right there, that's perfect kind of way. I mean, he killed this bitch and ate her, fled to Japan, and again, because of a technicality in the extradition laws, he is alive and well and living in Japan, and wait for it, has a Twitter account. Level of outrage, fucking zero. Donut, goose egg, nothing, nine, nicht, nada, zip, zilch, zed, nothing. But we're going to get ourselves all into a tizzy over this man with his dangerous rhetoric, like making happiness the key pursuit in life is just hopeless. It's just not a pursuit that's going to fulfill itself. Life is already complex enough to make us anxious, painful, disappointed, and hurt. That's not a pessimistic viewpoint. It's the truth. My God, what dangerous, dangerous rhetoric for just any old citizen to have access to. But you know what? That isn't the one that really got him. No, the account that got reinstated, that got them all aflutter, was this guy. And you know what? It was only a matter of time. Twitter hasn't been the same without Darth Cheeto, without the Mango Menace driving traffic to the site. And in spite of leftist histrionics, it was never going to be the same. His account's been reinstated. Chances are he's not going to go back. He's got his own platform now over at Truth Social, where I just recently signed on, but we'll get into that later. He's not coming back to Twitter, but the fact that he's got the ability to has them in utter fucking hysterics. Now, Elon put up a Twitter poll with the line Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And in that poll, by the narrowest of margins, Trump reinstatement won. 52 to 48%. Now, of course, they claimed voting irregularities and that was too close to call. And when you've got margins like that, you've got to provide allowances for both sides. Funny, I don't remember them having the same sentiment when this thing happened in Arizona, but we can get into it later. Now, a lot of people are saying that Elon is biased because all he's doing is returning right wing and reinstating right wing accounts. Well, it could have something to do with the fact that left wing maggots never got banned in the first fucking place. I mean, except for this one. This D-list celebrity holding the mock severed head of the president, she was banned for impersonating Elon Musk. She got booted off the platform, and guess what? He reinstated her too. And of course, because everyone on Twitter has an opinion, and most of them on the right have a sense of humor, it generated memes like this. Maybe you could try tweeting from your dead mother's account. Now, Kathy Griffin, to her credit, has said, I will not be coming back to Twitter. Good. We're not going to miss you. And the 9 people who still find you relevant will probably drift over to whatever platform you end up on or whatever rock you crawl back under. Now, we haven't reinstated everyone. There are some egregious examples that many of us would love to see back on the platform. I won't mention any names like this guy, and I certainly wouldn't want to put professional trolls on like this guy. No, it'd be a real pleasure to see them back on the platform as well. The thing about deplatforming people is that it becomes all about narrative control. We know this, everything gets handed over to fact checkers. Even Greenwald had this to say about fact checkers, but we've already done that point. When they have narrative control, they can prevent questions from being asked, and that becomes its own threat. That's when you have coked up clown shoes being handed $91 billion when his opponent, Russia's entire 2022 military budget was only $77 billion. Nothing to see here. Move along. Ignore the laptop, ignore Burisma, ignore the Maidan coup, ignore CIA assets in the region, ignore the fact that it's pushed us to the brink of nuclear war. Do you understand the importance of all speech being available? But the flip side of that is that we have to be able to hold both sides to account, because, as our man Eric Blair once again said, everyone believes in the atrocities of the enemy and disbelieves in those of his own side without ever bothering to examine the evidence. We have to take the time. We have to examine the evidence. We have to stand on principle. We have to participate in what Sam Adams called that animating contest of freedom. I'll give you the quote. If you love wealth better than liberty, the tranquility of servitude. Let me stress that. The tranquility of servitude better than the animating contest of freedom. Go home from us in peace. We ask not your counsels nor your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains set lightly upon you, and may posterity forget that ye were our countrymen. We don't need to have hate in our hearts. We don't need to have animosity or hostility in our souls. We just want those weak grazer motherfuckers to go away and leave us in peace. The opinions expressed by the Reverend are his own and no one else's on the planet. Not friends, not foes, not supporters, not detractors, not sponsors, and considering I'm with a new one now, certainly, let me stress that, certainly not employers. They have been adjudicated thought crime in all jurisdictions. Consider yourself warned. They are coming from the heart. They are guided by the mind. They are guaranteed to choke you with a big, fat dose of turgid, thorny, painful, ass-stretching, swollen, slick, greased truth cock right where it hurts. Unlubricated, unfiltered. Welcome back, boys and girls. It's time once again for the Sunday sermon. Every week I have a harder time getting through that part of the with a straight face. Appreciate you guys bearing with me, man. Looks like all the usual suspects are on board. Let's see where the fire is. Everybody in for the drum roll. Boom. Coming hard, charging out of the starting gate as we always do with the band Red Desert from the smoldering embers and ruins of the once great American city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. The name of the track is Older, No Wiser. Every week I get a little bit older, and every week you guys get to decide if I've gotten any wiser. Some weeks, admittedly, I do better than others. This may not be one of those weeks. Just going to go ahead and let you know ahead of time. Anyway, man, the name of the band is Red Desert. They are definitely worth checking out. Let's go ahead and do a quick little roll call. Brother Ryan on board, and yes, I've got a special dedication to that gentleman. Brother Dennis, Bill Wade on board. Good to see you. The original Sinner Sister herself, Miss Emmy on board early. Nice to see y'all. I believe I saw Joey, the Sultan of Sarcasm, on board, and of course, Brother Joel Allen Jackson from the depths of the Midwest. I say the depths of the Midwest because have you seen where he's staying? Bro, that's rough, man. And I'm in Twin Falls, Idaho, saying that. By the way, I did find an Asian grocery here in Twin Falls, Idaho. It's a little spendy. And it's the only one in town, but I did find one. Brother Ryan, they have our Bulldog Ramen, that super spicy, twice burning soup that we are so fond of. They have that in stock. They are rationing sriracha. No more than 3 of any size bottle per customer. Could be a true mark of the end times. I guess we'll see. There he is, Joey, the Sultan of Sarcasm. I knew I saw you drift through there, brother. And of course, Brother Mike, the mighty Stone. Brother, thank you again. You already know, man. You already know. We have Brother Roman, and let me guess, no doubt his lovely wife Carrie is on board somewhere from opiumtales.com. David McConnell on board. Am I missing anybody? I feel like I'm missing somebody. There's Carrie. I knew where one went. GW Bowles, I'm late, but I'm here. Brother, that is the story of my fucking life. I'm just glad that you made it, man. I'm glad that you made it. And yes, I did get the word. In fact, when you watch the replay, the opener, yeah, he's back on. Well, at least there is an opportunity for him to be back on Twitter. Whether or not he decides to take advantage of it remains to be seen. I've got my own thoughts on that. We'll discuss it briefly. Howdy, Roman Rev, and all you fine thought criminals. See you at the Ministry of Love soon, man. Room 101, dude, with the rat cage over my face. No, do it to Julia. Anyway. I think it's really cool that John Hurt, the guy that played Winston in 1984, winds up playing the Big Brother character in V for Vendetta. I'm wondering how many people that little snippet was lost on. Not everybody's paying attention. Opium Tales 2, right? Yes, Brother Roman is an Opium Tales 2 on Twitter because the first one got banned during what we refer to in Twitter history as the dark times, where Pyrrhic and Vagina were running the place into the fucking ground. I'm sorry, dude. It's like, first of all, I can't really pronounce the bitch's name. Terry No Strap. Yeah, quite a bit, actually. A lot of good stuff going on, Roman. A lot of good stuff going on. First of all, what is it, Vajaya or Vajaya or whatever, JJ, whatever the fuck that censor-in-chief cunt's name was. I can never pronounce it. It's just easier for me to call it Vagina. But in any case, that rotten snatch has now left the building. See ya, bitch. You and Pyrrhic and the rest of the B visa crew trying to replace the entire staff with foreign fucking imports, leaving my boy out, a couple other friends of mine out. Not going to give away a whole lot of details on that. It was frustrating. I'm happy to see Musk at the helm. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wind it down. Going to go ahead and fade out the bumper music and jump off into this thing. Oh, the cans? Yes. I'm so glad you asked. Again, guys, the name of the band is Red Desert. Red Desert from Minneapolis, Minnesota. A little stoner doom kind of set. I really dig those guys, and I really dig the genre. Actually, man, like Stoner Doom. I'm not gonna get into genre tripping and all that stuff. The cans. I have modified the liquid enthusiasm protocol for this week because again I found the one and only Asian grocery store in the Twin Falls, Idaho region. And if you guys know anything about those Asian groceries, and if you don't know anything about those Asian groceries, you don't know nothing about this right here. Mr. Brown's iced coffee. You don't know nothing about this if you don't know about those Asian groceries. And I'll show you something else you guys don't know anything about if you don't know those Asian groceries. Is this right here? And right now I can see Ryan's eyes lighting up, and I can see Roman's eyes lighting up, and I can see Dennis's eyes lighting up. Because when Dennis and I first met years and years and years ago, that was a thing with me and Asian groceries and these little Asian grocery store energy drinks, including, just a little side note here, the original Red Bull. You guys know Red Bull now, that little, semi-girthy penis-sized can. Too descriptive, too visual. Okay, whatever. You're never going to drink it the same way again, are you? Anyway, ginseng rush, yes, and we still got plenty of that laying around too, man. The little tiny bottles, gotta fucking love those. Anyway, the original Red Bull came in these little brown glass bottles. It was not carbonated, or little short cans like this with the two bowls, butting heads on the label of the can. Either little short cans like this or little brown medicine bottles. It was not carbonated, and it tasted like that grape flavored cough syrup. I don't mean like the nasty cough syrup you used to get when you were a kid. I mean like the really sweet tasting fruit flavored cough syrup. Maybe everybody didn't get that as a kid. Maybe that's just my childhood. Maybe they were drugging me. Maybe fucking I was a government experiment. Who knows? Anyway, sweet tasting stuff, and it was bull gum. Yes, indeed. And the desired effect, misrip it from deployment, diabetes, and caffeine in every can. Yes, toxic insulin shock, each and every one. But yeah, the original Red Bull was only available at Asian groceries. And then I heard it was coming to the American market, and I thought, yeah, this is going to be great. And they turned it into this carbonated horse piss garbage. I mean, just straight fucking trash. But you can still go to the Asian grocery and find stuff like the M150 and Shark and some of the other stuff. Bullcom, taurine, ergo. Why there's a bull on it? Yes, absolutely, brother, absolutely. That in effect, you'll be fucking like a bull all night on this stuff. Again, another little secret that only the people that know about the Asian grocery store energy drinks are in on. So now I'm letting y'all in on it. Go and check it out. Let me get a couple of sponsor shout outs out of the way. Of course, first and foremost, brother Roman, and of course his lovely wife Carrie, and Roxy and Allie, and a bevy of beautiful women over at opiumtales.com. He is back on Twitter now that people who had been deplatformed are coming back and they are unbanned. He is back. Opium Tales 2, because original Opium Tales on Twitter got banned for ThoughtCrime, WrongThink, what the fuck ever, ginseng rush from Hollywood Foods. Yes, same stuff. Right, same stuff. Anyway, they are the erotic pinups and portraits people. Roman does phenomenal watercolor work, and you've got beautiful naked women and testosterone-driven commentary. What's not to like about that? Fulfills all the prerequisites for good shit on Planet Bart, so go check him out. Also, and I'm so looking forward to this. The tradition is being kept alive. Dusty Tellison, Casey Tellison, my Viking brothers over at Nordic Smoke Barbecue, the only legit barbecue in the Inland Northwest. They will be smoking my turkey for the holidays yet again. I have dispatched by phone. Brother Aaron is dropping the birds in question off as we speak, and they will be smoked and ready for this Thursday. I will be leaving out of Twin Falls on Wednesday, so I will be back in Spokane for Turkey Day and Nordic Smoke Barbecue delivering again. They will also be smoking turkeys for the Christmas holiday. They also do catering and all manner of other stuff. And guys, I got to tell you, Carolina by way of Texas, I am not easily impressed by barbecue. These guys are the real fucking deal. So please, If you are in the Spokane CDA area, get with them. Find them on social media. They are on Facebook. They are on Twitter. They are on Instagram. They are all over the place. Definitely check them out. So that's that. All right, boys and girls, let's get off into the meat of this thing, shall we? First and foremost, you guys already know where we are headed first. Boys and girls, the ever popular segment, Ryan's Rabbit Hole. You guys know that one of the things that Brother Ryan and I bonded over early on is the fact that we are both repositories of useless information. The Rabbit Hole is a popular segment that we do every single week where we take it a little outside the beaten path of the focus and direction that I might have for the particular program. It's a little poke into your bread oven. It's a little something to take you out of your comfort zone, take you down a little rabbit hole outside of your particular reality tunnel, if you are familiar with the works of Robert Anton Wilson. And in fact, we should probably do a rabbit hole on Robert Anton Wilson. I'm thinking about it. But in any case, some weeks we go conspiratorial, some weeks we go historical, some weeks we go esoteric. But it's always a little something that we hope will be new information for you, something to which you have not previously been exposed, or something that you may be tangentially familiar with, but haven't really done a deep dive with. And we're going to try to push you off, and we encourage you to go down that rabbit hole as far as you can to expand your horizons, to expand your worldview, to get a view that you might not have arrived at on your own. This week, we are going semi-historical, semi-conspiratorial, and that's really going to be a matter of observation and perspective. The rabbit hole for the week is going to be, and I'm going to give you a search term here, is going to be stellar wind. Okay, stellar wind, and those are two separate words. This was essentially a massive surveillance program that was headed up and instigated by Dick Cheney and all of his contacts, folks like Brennan, who have come to the surface, and others who have outright denied the existence of such a program. But of course, as I say, it's always tinfoil hat until it gets declassified. What do we know about the deep state? What do we know about the deep state maxims? Never let a good crisis go to waste, particularly one that you may or may not have engineered, or at the very least been aware of and allowed to happen. Now, 9/11 is something else. What you choose to believe about that. Cheney was the guy that gave the orders to military aircraft once they had determined that passenger aircraft had been hijacked and were being used as missiles. The Pentagon, again, a lot depends on how much of the official narrative you believe or not. Once he had established that the towers had been struck, that the Pentagon had been struck, and there were still planes in the air, he gave the order a little above his chain of command to bring all commercial aircraft to the ground to land at their closest possible airports. I refer to that, for those of us that lived there, I still refer to it as the day the sky stood still. I was living in Houston, Texas at the time, and the eeriness of the skies being empty for days. But here's where we tie it back into the predecessor for stellar wind and Cheney jumping above his pay grade. What do you mean above his pay grade? He's fucking vice president of the United States. Stick with me here. He gave the order that any plane that remained in the sky after a certain point was to be shot down. You're not going to find that in the 9/11 Commission report. You will find it in any number of declassified documents. This isn't tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. There are plenty of people who, looking at the wreckage on the ground in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, believe that the plane that crashed in Shanksville was bound for either the U.S. Capitol building or the White House itself. That is the theory. They made a big to-do propaganda of it where brave passengers stood up and took back the cockpit from the hijackers and, dove the plane into a field so no one would get. What you choose to believe is on you. What I will tell you is that the whole in the ground in Shanksville, Pennsylvania is not consistent with even a straight in nosedive crash. That plane, in my estimation, was shot down, and Cheney was the guy that gave the order. But Cheney wasn't done. Again, they don't let a good crisis go to waste. Stellar wind was part of what was swept into effect after the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act, again, the narrative control here is just astounding. You give this Orwellian name to basically what amounts to police state in a single bill, and you give it a name like the Patriot Act, to where the implication is if you vote against it, that somehow your patriotism is called into question. I will tell you one person who voted against it whose patriotism has never been in question. That is Dr. Ron Paul. If you are not familiar with Dr. Paul, you should be at least tangentially familiar with his son and all the things that Rand is doing against Fauci. Again, on a tangent. Stellar wind was brought into effect under the auspices of the Patriot Act. Keep in mind, you are dealing with September 11th, 2001. I want you to think about social media was virtually non-existent. The internet was still, I wouldn't quite say in its infancy, but certainly in its prepubescent development. Things like YouTube existed. Twitter did not. Facebook did not. If memory serves, MySpace didn't even come along for another 3 years. You had LiveJournal, some other things. There wasn't really a way to communicate what was really going on. And the government, under the auspices of the Patriot Act, instigated Stellar Wind to data mine every communication everywhere. Why did I bring up the social media thing? Because now we essentially do the work for the intelligence community. We do it all on our own. They don't have to spy on you when you're talking into a wiretap and having it put on music at your house for you people that have Alexa. They don't have to sneak and take pictures of you when you post 100 of them a day. Back then, they needed subterfuge, and they found it under the auspices of Stellar Wind. They data mined everyone's communication, everyone's. They collected metadata, the likes of which Google and Facebook would not be able to do for another decade. They knew everything about everyone. They could judge by patterns. They had the highest technology available to them. And they could tell you by measuring your consumption patterns with a reasonable degree of certainty how many squares of toilet paper you use to wipe your ass. They had it down to that much of a fucking science. We're going to roll that. Make Orwell fiction again. Yeah, that would be nice. And you are correct. Dr. Ron Paul should have been president of the U.S. Best politician we ever had. I did work for, I got into working with that. What's this? I forgot. Chinese media keeps running stories saying America's on the brink of civil war 5 straight days now. I'm not shocked. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all, G-Dub. Anyway, back to Stellar Wind. They collected the metadata. There is a book. Since we're going down rabbit holes, I'm going to send you down a sub-rabbit hole while we're here. There is a book that was written in the late 70s, early 80s. I wound up reading it about 1991. It is a book called The Puzzle Palace. Okay. It is about the National Security Agency, the NSA, or as us tinfoil hat types used to refer to it, no such agency. What they have available to them. The analogy that they made then, okay, because again, this book was very dated. They said, imagine, and at the time, desktop calculators were about the size of this fucking iPod. They said, imagine the amount of memory you can fit on a desktop calculator, right? At the time. And then realize that the NSA measures its computer space in acres. Pretty terrifying. I'm going to take that analogy forward for you. This is my new Caterpillar phone, by the way, Cat S48. I'm going to give them a plug. They are not a sponsor of the program, but I love their fucking products. Anyway, imagine the amount of information that is stored on this little candy bar right here. Contact information, patterns, geo-tracking, consumption patterns, contacts, known associates, everything, right, that is contained on this little candy bar, right? And then realize that the data center I was building for Facebook last year measures just their computer space in hectares. And that data center that I was building was one of a half dozen that they have scattered around the world. Now, that's what we have now. At the time, September 11, 2001, in the wake of this, Cheney had what by today's standards were limited resources, but he authorized stellar wind. And that surveillance program data mined everyone, everywhere. And then as it proceeded, eventually, with the inception of Google and social media, stellar wind seems to have disappeared. First, it went by other names, and then it vanished. Not before Bush, right? Bush Cheney and his follow-up act, the Mulatto Messiah, when Obama came into office. He not only renewed the Patriot Act, he expanded many facets of it, including the FISA courts, including extraordinary rendition, including waterboarding. Though for public record, oh no, waterboarding is torture. Blah, blah, blah. And he renewed stellar wind. But then social media comes along. Poof. Stellar wind goes away. There's your rabbit hole. And I want to stress this. And right, biomedical data, you're right. That was one that I overlooked. You were absolutely correct. I want to revisit something that we touched on briefly in the opener. Everyone believes in the atrocities of the enemy and disbelieves in those of his own side without ever bothering to examine the evidence. Are you following me here? Are you tracking? We have to be willing and able. Whether you do sides, whether you don't do sides. If you do sides, I can and do call out the wretched excesses of the left constantly, because to me now they are the biggest existential threat to liberty, the biggest existential threat of the inception of authoritarian rule. It was not always thus. And the people who have known me the longest, people like Roman, people like Dennis, they will tell you that I raged against the excesses of the Bush administration. We have to be able to call bullshit on both sides. Otherwise, like I said, we're trying to move in a different direction here. Otherwise, we're just noise. We're just fucking noise. Party over principle should never be something that you are willing to accept, nor should you be willing to put aside the excesses of people who you may consider your team. So go down that rabbit hole by all means. Learn everything that you can about stellar wind. Learn everything that you can about the Patriot Act. Maybe give a cursory reading of that old book, The Puzzle Palace, and realize that what they had to do back then and what they were capable of doing back then, we are now doing to ourselves. Does that mean we turn into those guys that say, oh, I'm in the shadows, bro? I have no social media presence, man. I'm in the shadows, bro. Nobody knows me. I'm a mystery. I'm an enigma. Go fuck yourself. Seriously? All that means is it's going to take them 8 seconds to find me and 3.5 minutes to find you. Stop it. You're not staying in the shadows. You're shrinking from the fight. But when you go in with your eyes open. Know what you are volunteering about yourself. Know what they have access to. And then go back and look at Stellar Wind and the Patriot Act and everything that came with that. Go down that rabbit hole and realize what they are willing to do and capable of doing with that information. Stellar Wind, Patriot Act, Puzzle Palace, that is your rabbit hole for the week. Hippity hop, motherfuckers. Stuff a cotton ball up your ass and get busy. Cotton ball up your ass. What the fuck, man? You're right, Carrie. I am in a much better mood. Trying to take things in a little bit of a different direction. Again, the rabbit hole is always going to be part of the program. Touching on political stuff, social commentary, things like that. It's always going to be part of the program. But again, I was getting too close to noise. I was getting too close to blackpilling while telling everybody not to get blackpilled. I had to take a serious self-assessment. I've been looking at a lot of facets of my own life because ultimately, no matter what I have to say or any other voice that you listen to has to say, final is on you. The final is on you. If you are useless to yourself, you are useless to the cause, you are useless to your loved ones, you are useless to everyone around you. Stoics, and I don't consider myself a stoic, all right? I don't have the temperament for it. But there is a lot to be gleaned from Stoic philosophy. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, there's a lot to be gleaned from Stoic philosophy that can help you in the dark times to come. And here is one of those things, and this is from the man himself, Marcus Aurelius. You always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Leave them alone. Now, guys, you know I'm not wired like that. But the point and the principle of that is something we're striving for. I could spin my fucking wheels all day and I could drag you along spinning those wheels. I want you informed. I want you to know what the fuck is going on. But I don't want you to be so bogged down with it that it becomes a shadow hanging over your soul, because shadows hanging over your soul lead to depression. And speaking of depression and shadows hanging over your soul, for the sake of myself and Ryan and the entire Houston MMA community, I want to take a moment of silence for Mr. Jason David Frank. Jason, you will know some of you guys that watched the Power Rangers when you were a kid. You know him as the Green Ranger. A lot of you may or may not know that he went on to have a career in mixed martial arts. He was also the founder of a brand, Jesus Didn't Tap, which I actually have several of their designs. He was a man of faith. That Jesus Didn't Tap thing was not posturing for him. He took strength in his faith. But ultimately, the strength that he took from his faith was not enough. You take a look at this picture. Does that look like a weak man to you? Hardly. Does that look like someone who is afraid of confrontation to you? Hardly. Knowing who he was and the following that he had, does that look like someone who wasn't surrounded by people that loved him, cared about him? Hardly. But there was something in that man's soul, something in that man's mind, something in that man's psyche that became overwhelming for him. And as of last night, I was informed that he succumbed to his demons. Details are still forthcoming. So I'm going to take 10 seconds here and ask everybody to bow your heads. Take a moment of silence for Jason David Frank. And then I would like you all to remember that as part of a warrior culture, we're not going to mourn his death. We're going to celebrate his life. But while celebrating his life, we cannot lose sight of what took it. Part of the reason that I'm heading in another direction is because I don't want to be part of that gray cloud for someone. I will give you, I'll never lie to you. I'll never bullshit you about how dark shit is, but I will always show you where that light is that breaks through the fucking darkness. Sometimes guys like Jason, they can't find the light no matter what. Nobody knows what separates one person's depression from another person's suicidal depression, but for whatever reason, they can't find that light that breaks through the darkness. And it's tragic and it's a loss. So reach out to people, reach out and think about the measure of your life and its effect on others, and don't contribute to the cloud. Don't contribute to the darkness unless you're going to find somebody and help them find their own way to the fucking light. Because going into what we are inevitably going into now, we need people like Jason David Frank, men of faith, men of confidence, men of valor, men of honor, solid stock, ready to fucking throw dogs at a moment's notice. We need guys like that. So if you have someone, yeah, when you have someone like that, take extra care. You hear me say it at the end of the program. Sometimes you guys take care of yourselves, you take care of each other. Sounds like just words, right? And it is kind of a platitude, you know? But look past the fact that it's a platitude and realize that this kind of shit is important. This kind of shit is important. To look out for your brothers, to have your brothers back. And while you're having your brothers back, make sure they know that they've got your ear. Sometimes that isn't even enough. Sometimes they're so far in their own darkness they can't find the light and they check out, and it's a tragedy. And in this particular case, I'm very, very sorry. I'm very, very sorry that Jason Frank could not find his way out of the darkness. I wasn't particularly close to him. We interacted because I was so prominent in the fucking Houston MMA scene as a ring announcer and MC, strength coach, all the things that I did. And we actually used to skydive at the same home drop zone out there in Rocheron. We never jumped together, but we were out there a lot the same days, fucking throwing ourselves out of airplanes that weren't even on fire. He was a good man. He was always very affable. He was always very accommodating. For me, the loss is more metaphorical than it is tangible. Okay. It's just another good man that should not have fucking died. But for a lot of my friends out there, they were very close to the man. Mike the Greek Bronzolus in particular. Mike, um, I know you and Jason were very close. I've been trying to reach you all day. Check your voicemail. My prayers for the strength of all those people who were close to Jason David Frank. And it's just shit that kind of thing happens. Jason faced the same shit me and many others face with your beliefs and where you stand. Certain groups will go out of their way to fuck with your life. Online justice, social justice warrior pieces of shit. That is correct. Hard to get gigs and keep going with people you know and respect won't work with you because some shitheads called the business threatening a boycott. I didn't want to make this political, but I won't shy away from the truth. That was a big part of it too. That is why I will never break bread with those motherfuckers. I don't have to carry animosity in my heart toward people that are possessed of that idiot ideology. But yeah, that was part of it. Jason Frank was a man of faith, as I said, and he was outspoken about it. He made no bones about it. And any time that he would appear at a convention, he had motherfuckers calling and threatening and boycotting and all kinds of shit. So yeah, that was a fucking factor. So when you're looking out for your brethren on this side of the aisle, realize that that is a factor. Reach down to your heart and let them know, no matter what, we got your fucking back. Doesn't matter how fucked up the world wants to be. Doesn't matter if the whole rest of the fucking world has decided that your faith and your ideology is persona non grata. Doesn't matter. Does not fucking matter. We got you. And we will never back down. Damn the torpedoes full speed ahead because we know that we are right. Whether you are a person of faith, whether you are a devout Christian, raised in the church, steeped in the scriptures, follower of the Asatru path, honor the old gods, warrior gods, doesn't matter. Good people, good, strong people looking to elevate, looking to move not just ourselves, but the entire fucking species in a positive direction. You feel me? Are you tracking? We will not always be able to pull people out of the pit of that fucking darkness. Tragically, it was not enough. Jason. But let them know and do everything that you can reasonably in your power. Look, man, we've all got lives. We've all got lives. But we rise and we fall fucking together. Yes, build strength as an individual. Help other people build their own strength as an individual because that's what makes us a stronger collective. It's tough to find words of wisdom, fucking shit like that. Anyway, that was my dedication to Jason Frank, and again, prayers for strength to all the people who were closer. I know. Well, you know, we'll talk. But yeah, if anybody does get hold of Mike the Greek, please tell him to check his voicemail because he's got a bevy of motherfuckers out there that are trying to reach out to him. He was really, really close with Jason, and again, we're concerned. So, how do I go from that back into the headline? Let's go through the bullet points. Let's just jump right back in. Let's just jump right back into the bullet points. Because when I close, we're going to bring it back. The bullet points. Sliding scale of majority rules. And the dangers of free speech versus controlled narratives. Okay, that's a possible segue. One of the things that Jason ran into in a lot of those places, his free speech, his freedom to stand on his own faith and his own ideology was constantly being challenged. This is something that is the exclusive province of the left. They are known for it. They live by it. It is by design, which is why they lapse into a political fucking coma anytime someone outside their orthodoxy might have a voice. Like what we had happen here last week, which is how he wants it. Well, he gets it. I don't like it any more than you, man. If you could tell me what somebody out there, I know Ryan knows what fucking film that soundbite is from, and the rest of it. Trying to interact with these folks. Compromise is meaningless. Compromise is meaningless unless it is reciprocal. And it is never reciprocal coming from the other end. Nor should it be. Any more than we should be willing to compromise or be reciprocal when it comes to matters of free speech. Sam Harris. You guys familiar with Sam? An intellectual of the highest order, a great thinker who has of late reduced himself to being an OIP, an otherwise intelligent person. Because what Sam Harris did in the run up to the midterms was basically say he doesn't care what comes out about Hunter Biden's laptop. He doesn't care about this. He doesn't care about that. Anything in the world up to and including fraud is perfectly acceptable to him. Anything in the world up to and including intelligence agencies spying on conservative groups and lying to the American public is okay if it keeps Trump out of office. This isn't the thinking of a true intellectual, is it? Chomsky recently on the left started losing his mind during the COVID pandemic. But even Chomsky, at the height of his mental sharpness, said that if you don't believe in free speech for people you despise, then you don't believe in it at all. This is not where Sam Harris is. And Sam Harris is an intellect, a very fucking respectable intellect. And he's given it over to the other side, party over principle, as we spoke of before. Majority rules. Funny how, again, getting back to compromise, our boy Elon, and you guys know how I feel about Elon. I make no bones about my man crush on Elon Musk. I don't have my prayer candle here. Couldn't travel with it. Elon tweeted a poll when he was considering restoring Trump's account. He immediately restored Jordan Peterson's account, immediately restored Kathy Griffin's account. Okay? So he is playing fair on both sides. But he tweeted a poll. If you guys are on Twitter, and please, I'm going to get more into this at closing. If you are not on Twitter, please, just for my sake, if you dig what I have going on, open a simple little bullshit Twitter account and follow me, because after what happened the past 30 days, I'm not going to be very active on the Facebook platform from which you guys have come to know me. I'll be there, but it'll be on a very different level. In any case, Elon tweeted a poll. Should we or should we not reinstate Donald Trump's account? Roman, help me out here, because I know you're there, and I know that you understand how the algorithm works. The understanding, yes, you are correct, Joel. The understanding that I had was that the initial responses had Trump being reinstated way ahead, and that the bots went to work. Now, again, Roman is a tech guy. I am, by extension, fucking not. So in the same way that Roman comes to me with questions about firearms or a particular martial art or a particular piece of equipment. I got to go to Roman and defer to his intellect and his skill set when it comes to this stuff. But the story that I have, and Roman, please feel free to jump in. But I don't know how many bots they were able to eliminate. Okay, well, basically the big picture version of the story is that Trump being reinstated was way ahead, and then the bots started doing their thing, and they started voting, and it came up to the end of the poll, and Trump being reinstated basically won 52% to 48%. The tweet, by the way, that Elon put out for the survey, for the poll, was Vox Populi, Vox Dei. Now, you guys, if you went to public school, probably don't have a whole lot of Latin, but you're at least tangentially familiar with what they're saying just from cultural references, if nothing else. Vox Populi, Vox Dei, basically what Elon was saying is the voice of the people is the voice of God. Scott! How you doing, man? Glad you're on board. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Basically, Elon saying, look, I'm going to let y'all decide. You guys are the Twitter participants. You guys are the ones who are on this fucking platform. Vagina is gone. Pyrrhic is fucking gone. We're clearing out the bots as quickly as we can. I'm going to let the people decide. The voice of the people will be the voice of God. And what did the people say? 52 to 48%. They said, reinstate that orange motherfucker. So let it be written. So let it be done. This is what you want. This is what you get. This is what you want. This is what you get. It happened. He's reinstated. He's got his own platform. Truth Social. Chances are I wash my hands of this. I wash my hands of this. Give us Barabbas. God damn it. Got me sidetracked again, motherfucker. Scourge. Okay. Sorry. I'm like consumed by visuals from fucking the Passion of the Christ. I got Jim Caviezel on a fucking cross, just like soaked in blood. Anyway, the orange motherfucker has his own platform. Will he come back to Twitter? Who fucking knows? He may or may not have signed an exclusivity agreement with Truth Social, saying that he wouldn't go back there even if it were offered. We don't know. But the bottom line is this. People went into hysterics at the mere prospect that he could be allowed to speak. Ponder that for a second. Not that he would speak, not that he would or had threatened to say something specifically prohibited by the law, incitement to violence, threats, but the very prospect that he could be allowed to speak on a public platform. Do you understand how fucking sinister that is? Terrifying. When you have otherwise respectable intellects like the aforementioned Sam Harris, literally saying that free speech absolutism is, and I quote, fetishizing free speech. Sam, you of all people know the history of Western civilization and the importance of unmitigated, unrestricted, unimpeded free speech to the very fundamental values and basis of Western civilization. The pendulum is starting to swing back the other direction. Went completely fucking woke and they had control. And what? Getting back to compromise. What did they tell us? When Biden shut down the Keystone Pipeline and all those fucking workers were out of a job, what did they say? Find another job. Learn to code. Oh, okay. So now all the Twitter bots, now all the Twitter employees are being cast to the wayside. Hey, Sparky, if you're looking for sympathy, check the dictionary. You'll find it between shit and syphilis. Coin a movie line. Learn to code. You already know how to code. Get a job somewhere else. Go find a job somewhere the fuck else. You know, it was Roman, my dear friend, who pointed this out. And I'm going to have to fish this up out of my messages real quick. You guys will indulge me. It was Roman who sent me this link. A tweet from Jim Osman when everybody lost their mind that Elon firing everybody was going to be the end of Twitter, and God, this guy's an idiot. Right, because he got to be Elon fucking Musk, the world's richest man, by making consistent bad business decisions. Fuck yourself. Anyway, Jim Osman. I don't know who needs to hear this, but when Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he fired 4,100 people, 31% of the workforce. They were losing $600 million a quarter at the time, and the losses were accelerating. I fired back with Matt Wallace. Elon Musk is doing more at Twitter with 50 employees than Pyrrhic did with 8,000. Both of these tweets are true. It's amazing what happens when you allow liberty to run its course, when you allow people to speak and you allow people to consume the information that they want to consume and do what they want with it. Is it dangerous? Certainly. The lack of critical thinking lets people believe things that are factually not true. Dangerous ideas that put big hamperages on society. Ones like vaccines are safe and effective. Ones like vaccines will prevent contraction and transmission of the virus. Ones like those servile face diapers you're wearing are preventing you from killing grandma. You understand how people can be led to believe blatantly fallacious ideas. When you allow people to discuss things openly, when you don't suppress. Tommy, good to see you, man. All his tweets from January 6th came back proving his innocence from that committee. Why did Twitter never delete them? Exactly. I prefer dangerous freedom to peaceful slavery. You are correct, Mr. Stone. In fact, we went into that in the beginning. That old quote from Sam Adams. And it can't be said enough because people do prefer wealth over liberty. They like that certainty, particularly those, the elite at the top fucking level. They don't want liberty for the fucking peasants if they can assure their wealth at the top. People do prefer the tranquility of servitude rather than the animating contests of freedom. What do you mean I have to think for myself? I might have to process information. I might have to develop an appreciation for nuance and subtlety. Holy fuck, don't make me do that. People on the left will always panic when there is a possibility that liberty might be expanded. Why? Because it takes us back to the natural order. Not to pull Friedrich Nietzsche out of my ass here. I don't think he'd fit. What is good in life? Feeling of power growing. What is bad in life? Feeling of power dwindling, weakness. The will to power, the natural order. In a free and open marketplace of ideas with an educated populace, even moderately educated populace. The truth, you've heard me say it before, and I will continue to say it to my dying breath. Fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. And in a free exchange, those ideas will come to the surface. But when you put on the masquerade of a free exchange of ideas, when in fact, the narrative is tightly controlled, this is a whole different beast. The same people demanding amnesty now. Oh, we couldn't have known back in 2020. You couldn't have known what, Sparky? All of the things that we told you, point fucking blank, and you banned us from social media. It'll still happen with other social media, and I'm going to get to my little hiccup with the betas at Meta, the Zuckerberg mob. But it won't happen on Twitter. Again, they don't understand the principle of compromise except when it's one way. We need you to give up your freedom to speak. Okay, well, what are you giving up? Well, we're letting you on the platform as long as you agree to keep your mouth shut. What the fuck? No, how about I'm allowed to fucking speak freely? Well, you can, but we're a private company. And if you don't like it, again, what did they tell us? If you don't like it, go build your own Twitter. Well, Elon didn't decide to build his own Twitter. Trump did. Trump went, built Truth Social. It's doing okay. I still haven't really found a way to navigate that platform yet. I haven't gotten the comfort zone with it yet, but I'm signed on. Trump built his own. Elon said, "You know what? I'm not going to build my own. I'm not going to build my own. I'm going to buy fucking yours." It's painfully obvious, and there's no need to rehash it. But look at the transition turned on a dime from arrogance to panic because they no longer control the narrative. When they controlled the narrative, we were silly, ridiculous creatures for thinking that there was censorship, for thinking that a single social media platform had the power to influence the outcome of elections by suppressing stories about laptops and things like that. We were being foolish to even suggest such a thing until. And then immediately came the outrage. We cannot have a social media platform with that kind of power. Finish the sentence. We cannot have a social media platform with that kind of power that we don't control. Are you tracking? Elon. I thank God for that aspy motherfucker. But now we've got one. And one of the grounds on which Tim Pool and I agree is the fact that all of the things being equal, any unrestricted social media platform, any unrestricted platform of communication, period, whether it's social media, whether it's talk radio, whether it's magazines, anything, all of the things being equal, eventually it will lean to the right. Some places harder than others. Why? Because again, getting back to what I'm saying, fundamentally, people are suckers for the truth. And the truth favors conservative ideology because conservative ideology is in line with the natural order. You can't fuck with what is ordained in the natural order. You feel me? What does the natural order say? Natural order says that the number one Darwinian imperative is what? A couple of you out there, I caught you just now. Strength, man. Fucking strength. No. And then on the other side, a couple of you fucking eggheads out there, it's smarts, man. It's smarts. Smart over strength, you fucking musclehead. You're wrong too, Sparky. The number one Darwinian imperative is adaptability. The natural order dictates adaptability. People who are dogmatic are not adaptable. Thank you, Dennis. Saw it. Right, Joey. Right. Adaptability. People who are dogmatic cannot adapt. Even in the simplest expression of the natural order, a fight. If you are dogmatic, you cannot adapt. If all you do is box, if all you do is strike, and you wind up in a bar fight with a Division I college fucking All-American wrestler, gonna be a bad night for you. Good news is it's gonna be a fucking short one. If you've got your MMA game on point, boy, you know how to fight in a cage with that rule set with no fucking 6 to 12 elbows and no intentional eye attacks or attacks to the collarbone or the throat or the vagus nerve or any of those things. But you're a striker, your ground game solid, you got your whole MMA game online, and somebody pulls out a fucking blade and you've never learned even a basic Sinawali 6 count, you're fucked because you can't adapt. Strong, sharp, adaptable minds. That's what we're trying to cultivate here. And that is what you're seeing a lot more of once liberty is allowed to express itself. You cannot prosper in what Samuel Adams called that animating contest of freedom. You cannot prosper if you cannot adapt. If every time an idea is presented to you that is outside of your fucking wheelhouse and your first impulse is to shut it down, that's not adaptability. If a new challenge presents itself and your first impulse is not to try to fucking solve the problem for yourself, but to reach to an expert or to an authority or to a government to come and fix it for you, it's not adaptability. Are you tracking? Getting back to the bullet point, majority rules. How did Donald Trump get reinstated on Twitter? Because majority rules. What did Musk say? Vox populi, vox dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. And you know what? You might not believe it, but I do. I believe that if it had gone the other direction, I believe that Musk would have said, hey, the people have spoken. I believe that. You might not. You're entitled to not believe that. We'll never know. But I believe that if it would have gone the other way, he would have said, okay, fine. The people have spoken. The people who are on Twitter, with fewer bots than we had before, as Roman pointed out, the people have spoken. So let it be written. So let it be done. But it was the narrowest of margins, and there were irregularities, and there was bot activity, and some of that stuff could have been suppressed. Oh, really? A close margin that happened to favor a result that you didn't like. They got pulled out in the last and extra innings through some means that you found objectionable. And so you're going to say that your side got robbed. You don't say. Interesting. And you guys already know where I'm headed with that. Laxalt got robbed in Nevada. Lake got robbed in Arizona. I'll say that. Eventually, it will be proven if any court has the balls in the spine to actually hear the case. I'm not worried about it. We move forward. We're not going to get blackpilled by that. We're not going to get bogged down in it. We just state what is fucking true, what is observable, and we move the fuck on. Simple. Very, very fucking simple. But when we're dealing with close margins and majority rules, it's odd, isn't it? You want to talk about close races? Again, this ties in control of the narrative and the sliding scale of majority rules. Who controls the narrative? Everywhere outside of Twitter, the regime, the deep state, the military industrial complex, they, the great mysterious they control the narrative. Everywhere but for Twitter and Rumble and a few other places. But overall, they have control of the narrative. And when you have control of the narrative, you could say, going into the final moments of the Colorado representatives race, well, that Boebert's been defeated. Boebert's been defeated. Boebert's been defeated. Frisch won. Frisch won. Frisch won. Well, it didn't turn out that way, did it? So if you control the narrative and the result doesn't come out the way you like, you know, majority rules and everything, what do you have to say? PBS. Colorado Republican Lauren Boebert's race likely heads to recount. Frisch conceded. Now, the Denver Post was kind enough to accept that Frisch conceded. But the headline was Lauren Boebert declares victory, Adam Frisch concedes, but a recount is still required. People magazine, Boebert's too close to call House race nears a recount in nail-biter election. Durango Herald, Lauren Boebert narrowly wins re-election after Adam Frisch concedes. Lauren Boebert, Denver Post, Lauren Boebert poised to win even as Adam Frisch gains enough voice to force automatic recount. See, they don't outright deny the election. They're just like, well, you may have won, but it was like narrow margins. We don't really like it. We're going to ask for a recount, but that's not election denialism. Joy Reid having a fucking meltdown. That's not election denial. Frisch conceded. Boebert won. End of fucking story. So don't tell me how you're willing to let it go. And don't tell me how you're all about majority rules. Look instead, narrative control, at how they handled Kari Lake. CBS News, Kari Lake isn't conceding in Arizona governor's race. She lost. The margins between Lake and her opponent were closer than the margins between Boebert and Frisch going into the final stretch. There weren't near the balloting issues and the polling location issues that there were in Maricopa County in Boebert versus Frisch. Do you see how narrative control and majority rules only works one way? Tying it back into compromise with those people only works one way. Don't get mad about it. Don't have any hate in your heart for these people. Just disengage. Disengage. There's literally nothing to be gained by it. None. Lately, and this is something I've been doing for my own state of mind, and maybe it'll help you out, because I observe, you guys hear the things that I talk about. I'm not blind to the stuff that's going on. If anything, I'm probably more on top of it than most of you. Why? Because the political scene and the social scene and the way that it ties into the historical scene and every other thing that's going on in geopolitics, domestically, nationally, internationally, locally. For me, it's like football fans and professional sports. You know, those guys that sit there and watch the fucking ball games, they can quote every goddamn useless statistic from every fucking player on the field. They know this guy's history, what round of the draft he was picked in, who he played for before, how many fucking running yards versus passing yards the guy got. Fucking moving over to baseball, how many RBIs is this guy responsible for? What's his standing fucking batting average? Moving over to basketball, this guy's controlled by China, this other guy's controlled by China, this other guy's also controlled by China. It's easy with basketball. Anyway, the guys that can do that. They can't name their fucking senator. They can't tell you who their local state legislator is. Probably don't know the name of their local sheriff. They can quote those statistics all fucking day. See, for me, the geopolitical thing, or the political thing, period, was kind of my pro sports, But when it gets overwhelming, it starts dragging you into the darkness, man. And you don't want to be part of that darkness. And you don't want that darkness, more to the point, you don't want that darkness to be a part of you. That was the direction that I felt like I was headed. And that's why, as I talked about last week, I'm trying real hard to be the shepherd now. I just want to move things a little different. Because ultimately, we don't have a whole lot of effect on that. Besides what we control for our own. Do we have any effect on, well, let's say this. Do we have any effect on this? 9 months. The cadaver in chief has given this piece of shit $91 billion. So that bottom line there, the entire military budget for Russia's entire 2022 military budget is only $77 billion. And we've given this guy $91 billion and a shit ton of weapons, all of which is completely fucking unaccountable. Let's not even get off into FTX and crypto. That's your own fucking rabbit hole to go down. But all the things with Hunter Biden and Burisma, I have questions. What I don't have is any control over that. I will point out to you how the idiocy of this regime has brought us to the brink of nuclear war for the first time since the end of the Reagan era, my high school days, over protecting business and financial interests to which he is compromised in Ukraine. I can tell you that. But you're not going to have any effect on it. It's more constructive for me to make you aware of it and say, hey, how close is your closest major nuclear target? Have you thought about fallout patterns? Do you have a bug out bag? Have you thought about improvising a shelter in your basement? Do you just want to off yourself if it comes to that? You have control over the way you choose to deal with things. That's another thing, getting back to the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius. You don't have any control over most of the things that happen over the course of a given day. But the way you choose to adapt your perception to those events, that's what's going to define it going forward. Be aware of the shit that is going on. Don't be stupid. Don't be uninformed. Don't be misinformed. Know what the fuck is going on in the world around you. Do not get overwhelmed by it. Do not let it drag you into the darkness. Remember this strong man we were just talking about? Nobody questions his strength, but he got drug out into the darkness. He got drug out of the deep water and he drowned. And you think it can't happen to you? Focus instead on strength. Focus instead on the blessings. Focus instead on the positive. Anybody familiar with this guy? Anybody know who that is? That's Ringo Starr, my friend. Richard Starkey, second drummer to play for the Beatles. First being Pete Best. Poor Pete, man, got kicked out right before they broke. This is Richard Starkey, Ringo Starr. I'm going to give you a little bit of Zen and Stoicism about Ringo. And it's something that I've always tried to live by, and it's an anecdote that I share with everybody I've ever worked for. And I feel like I've drifted away from that too. Once upon a time when the Beatles had just hit stateside. Now, here's the thing. Everybody knows this about the Beatles. John and Paul, if you believe that's the real Paul and not an imposter, different rabbit hole. John, Paul, George Harrison, geniuses, each and every one of them in their own right. Brilliant songwriters, great fucking musicians. Ringo, he was an adequate timekeeper. Wasn't a genius, totally out of his depth with that band. But he kept time really well, and that's all that they needed from Ringo. But everybody kind of knew. You got three geniuses and a guy that keeps time. Ringo probably knew it. So a reporter one time asked Ringo Starr a question. And the question took 3 fucking minutes just to ask. American journalist. How do you feel about hitting the States, and what are the differences between the UK and being here in America, and what do you feel like your musical legacy is going to be, and the effect of the British invasion on pop music in general, and what do you feel like the long-term process is going to be with you? It took a fucking long-winded 3 minutes it took to ask Ringo this fucking question. Again, this is little apocryphal anecdote. Those are apocryphal. That's my college word. I got like 3 of those. Took him 3 minutes to ask Ringo this fucking question. And when he was done, Ringo looked at him, kind of thoughtful for a second. He said, you know, I'm just happy to be here. The Zen of that, the Stoicism of that. You're Ringo. I'm out of my depth. I'm surrounded by people better than me. I have a fuckload to live up to, and I don't have the talent to live up to it, but I'm still here, and I'm blessed. And everything else is going to work itself out. But for me, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just happy to be here. A lot of wisdom in that. And I feel like I've gotten away from that. And I'm trying to reestablish touch with that. Because it was a really good part of the better elements of who I am and am capable of being. What's the old adage? Oh, viva referencia obscura, sir. A tu puca, yeah. Trying to get back in touch with ways that I'm capable of elevating my own station, ways that I can stabilize and process the things that are happening to me without being dragged into the deep water by it. Focusing on self, establishing a routine. Now that I'm here and I'm settled in Twin Falls, I got my dietary routine back on point. I've got my gym routine back on point. I will say this for the sake of people who have never been thrilled with the fact that I'm a smoker. I am just about over it. I know that's an easy fucking thing to say, But people like Roman and people like Dennis are aware that it can be done. They have seen me do it. Dennis was there. Dennis was there the first time that I gave up smoking. Why? Because we were on our way to the Northwest, and we stepped off the beaten path, and we were at a very, very high elevation. And Rocky Mountain, it was either Rocky Mountain National Park or Teton National Park. I can't remember. But I went down a hill and we found a waterfall. And then I came back up the hill. By the time I got to the top of that hill, because the altitude, because the fact that I smoked like a chimney, I was fucking dying. I didn't smoke one for the rest of the fucking day. I tried to smoke one at the end of the day after we set up a campsite. I got 2 drags into it and was like, dude, I want to vomit. When we got to Seattle, I tried to light up again. Yes, absolutely. And I will touch back on that. Life without the microdosing, the reality of it before now, it's sobering. It's very sobering. Very sobering. And Ryan, I'm glad that you brought that up because it's helping me process a lot of this stuff. Getting my head back on track where I was letting myself get bogged down, letting myself get dragged out into fucking deep water, spinning myself on my own head. The microdosing is absolutely fucking giving clarity. When I took a week and a half away from it, all of those things started bearing down on me again. The depression, the anxiety, all of it started getting spun up in my own shit. Anyway, yes, I am pretty well done. Pretty well done with the fucking smoking thing. I still get the cravings, but I get 2 drags into it and I'm like, dude, I can't do this. Why? Because I'm in Twin Falls. Look at now Twin Falls is not, Rocky Mountain National Park altitude, but it's definitely, it's about 5,000 feet above sea level, right? I'm feeling it. I'm definitely feeling it. You guys remember in Prineville, what was I doing? I'd go in, I'd do a fucking weight room workout. And when I got done with the iron, I'd fucking put in 3 rounds on the heavy bag and I was fucking feeling great. And I tried that shit here. I got 2 rounds in on the bag. I wanted to fucking die. I got 5 minutes in on a fucking Airdyne bike and I wanted to fucking die. Now, part of that is the altitude, but the bigger part of that is polluting my fucking lungs. It's got to go. Refocusing my efforts. Yes, the microdosing has helped, definitely, to refocus that. And to take me in a more positive direction, like when we played racquetball. Racquetball on an irresponsible dose of LSD and watching in my hallucinatory field of view, watching Dennis's head explode into little tiny blue balls like the Zapruder film, back and to the left. We'll tell him that story another time, Dennis. Thank you for that little chuckle. Sorry about the eye. Anyway, here's the bottom line. Be aware of all the things that are going on, but don't let it drag you into deep water. If it starts to drag you into deep water, look for a lifeline. Grab one of your buddies who swims better than you do. Do you feel me? You tracking? Like Marcus Aurelius said, and I'll take you right back to that soundbite. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't need to get worked up or trouble your soul things that you can't control. These things are not asking to be judged by you. Just leave them alone. You got to be aware of them. I'm not wired just to let shit go. I'm not there. Not yet. Don't anticipate. Wouldn't want to be. But you know what? I could be Ringo. I could find myself in a point of blessing like where I'm at right now. You already know. There's something that I want to share with you guys. And I will let you look up. You know what? Before I get into that, let me just say why I'm not going to be as active on Facebook, because part of getting my head right, I was banned for 30 days. I came back and immediately the hostility crept right the fuck up over me. In the past 2 days, I've been on a fucking tear. Now, I had moved that over to my fan page. I no longer have control of my fan page. It still exists, but I do not have admin control over it. Meta refuses to respond to any of the emails, any of the reports, any of the logins, any of the complaints, any of the something went wrong, fix this shit that I fucking sent them. And we're talking dozens of all of the above. They just absolutely refuse to respond. 2 of my pages are gone. You guys that have known me, and Roman, you'll feel this one because you've been around long enough to have seen all of it. Primal Iron Strength Training, that Facebook page. Thank you, Brother Cyril. Primal Iron Strength Training. Ryan, I'm going to call you on that when I get out of here. I'm going to call you on that. Primal Iron Strength Training. That page goes back to 2010. 12 years of pictures, of memories, of people whose life's path I crossed. Lives that were measurably improved. Great people doing great things, and all of those memories. My time at Paradigm with Primal Iron Strength Training. My absolute most productive years as a coach. And the strength that I got from the people who I was coaching got me through one of the darkest periods of my fucking life, and they never even knew. And I look back at that now with great fondness. But with a single click, a couple of betas at Meta, the Zuckerberg mob, erased it completely. Primal Iron Strength Training did not have a single community standards violation, not one. Same could be said for Survival Defense System Spokane. Mike Shaw, man after my own flesh and blood. We founded Survival Defense Systems Spokane together. We did self-defense clinics. We did things based around Tony Blauer and the Spear system. We taught a lot of women in the Spokane area how to make themselves harder to kill, less vulnerable. I watched women come through our seminars. They walk in like timid little church mouses, and by the end of the fucking seminar, they were goddamn born killers, ready to gouge your fucking eyes out, tear off part of your ear. One girl did. I had a woman in her 60s bite a bruise into this fucking bicep. All those pictures, all those memories, fucking gone. Just like that. Because some beta at Meta couldn't handle people thinking outside the box. This all happened while I was on this last 30-day ban. On October the 19th, I got an email. All 3 of those pages were ripped from my administrative control within a span of 2 minutes. This was not the actions of a hacker. This was the actions of employees of fucking Meta. Now, I don't think that some grand exalted fucking command came down from on high. I'm not that fucking important. No, it's way worse than that. It's a couple of sniveling little fucking children who have administrative control. And they erased, in one case, 7 years of memories, in another case, 12 years of memories, just erased it like it never happened. If you do a Facebook search right now for either Primal Iron Strength Training or Survival Defense System Spokane, you will find entries But there is no page link because those pages don't exist anymore. The information is still out there in other posts. And the Reverend Bart fan page, it's still up. It still exists. There hasn't been a post on it. It's way back in October. And if you do see any posts, by the way, if you are on the Reverend Bart fan page, please keep me apprised if you see any posts coming out of that page, because I don't control it anymore. It just sits there mocking me. But yeah, it's shitty what happened. But I'm not going to play the reindeer games anymore. And I'm not going to make my personal page, while I am trying to develop myself and take myself in a more positive direction, realign my sensibilities. I am not going to give way on my personal page to that kind of hatred and that kind of fucking vitriol. I will either find another way to reestablish a fan page or more likely jump platforms. My personal page will be there. I will make my little snarky comments. But again, I can acknowledge the way the world is without getting dragged into the darkness. And if that is the advice that I'm giving you, then it only stands to reason that I need to lead by fucking example. So that's what I'm going to endeavor to do. It's a bitch knowing that you're right. It's more of a bitch knowing that you're right and having inferior intellects, small minds, and weak people stuff you into a tiny little box and gaslight you that you were fucking wrong, particularly when those weak, small-minded fucks come in a mob, the way leftists do. The maggot mob, as I refer to them, the Antifa crowd, the Fauci faithful. Dangerously stupid and easily led. And you know in your heart of hearts that you are correct, but it doesn't matter because you're outnumbered, you're out authorityed, you're squeezed out. How do you keep from being overwhelmed? There is a piece of short fiction, and I think when I get off of here, I'm going to post the short TV video version of it to my personal page. But it's by Ray Bradbury. The name of the story is All Summer in a Day. For all of us tinfoil hat people, for all of us skeptics, for all of us thought criminals, for all of us who will not be led by fear, for all of us who will not be intimidated by a mob because we know that we're right. Story centers on a group of school kids. In a dark future, they live on the planet Venus. And the sun on Venus is only visible for 1 hour every 7 years. Now, there's a little girl named Margot. Margot has just recently moved there from Earth, and she's telling people, look, I've seen it. I've seen it. The sun is beautiful. It's going to be an amazing thing. It's been a while since she's seen it because she's been living on Venus, but it's going to be a beautiful thing, and we're all going to want to see that. She writes a little poem. I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. She describes the sun like a penny, a fire in a stove. But the other kids, they haven't seen it. And they don't believe her, and they mock her, and they ridicule her. And the tragedy is she knows that she's right. But she can't convince them. And they all get together in a mob, and they lock her in a closet. They bang on the closet door. They ridicule her. She's inside crying. And while they have her locked in the closet, the moment that they've been waiting for arrives, and the sun comes out. For an hour, the sun is out. And the mob that had ridiculed poor little Margot and locked her in the fucking closet, Oh, wow. This is amazing. It's so beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. And they play, they pick flowers. And after an hour, it starts to trickle rain again. And they all run back inside, fleeing the rain. But they forgot somebody. They forgot little Margot, who was locked in the closet. This fearful, stupid, easily led mob. Just robbed little Margot of her first chance to see the sun since she left Earth, and she won't get another chance for 7 years. They locked her in the closet because she was the fool. She was the liar. We know that we're right because there's more of us. Oh, what, you think you're smarter? Being a skeptic these days, being one of those tinfoil hat conspiracy types these days, even knowing that you're right, when you're in it, that mob tries to lock you in the closet. What happened? What are they demanding amnesty for now? They wished death on us. Death, prison, poverty. They wanted our children taken away. We knew we were right, but they were the mob. And they pushed us back. They booted us off social media platforms. They locked us in a closet. We're telling them that if they just listen, we all get to see the sun. And now they want to be the kids running around in the sunlight while we remain locked in the closet. Damn, if I'm going to let that happen. All of us who are skeptics, all of us who aren't fearful and easily led by that fear. We were right. We were locked in the closet. We had to suffer for the idiocy of the mob. Now, in Bradbury's version, and I want to make sure I get the quote right. At the end, yes, so they let her out of the closet. And it says that they were embarrassed over what they had done and unable to meet each other's glances. There was no such shame with the mob. In the televised version, they tried to make it up to Margot because all the kids had picked flowers while they were out in the sun, and they tried to give Margot those flowers as if that were going to be some kind of consolation. It's not. There is no consolation. When you were right, when you were correct, and the mob and the world and the mainstream narrative are all shrieking in your face and telling you that you're foolish and you're weak and you're stupid, you're a grandma killer, you're a science denier, this and that. When it finally comes around that you were right, there is no consolation. There is no accountability. So what do you take solace in? I take solace in the fact that I'm still breathing, that I didn't compromise my soul, that I didn't sell my nuts for 30 pieces of silver, that I never advocated for stripping somebody else's civil rights away, even if it wasn't reciprocal and they never would have returned the courtesy. I realize that I am still alive with my soul, my balls, my spine, my integrity intact. And I look at myself in the mirror and I remember Ringo Starr. Brother, I'm just happy to be here. I am the Reverend. That is the gospel. Appreciate you guys being here. Love each and every one of you. Carrie, you were absolutely correct. I'm much happier on a number of levels for a number of reasons. Definitely much happier. I'm happy that you guys decided to join me. If you guys want to throw me a little coin, if there was something that I presented here that changed your worldview, or it was new information, or maybe you just found it entertaining, or you just really want me to go away, and the easiest way is to throw money at me, that's totally cool too. I'm like an ugly stripper in that sense, you know. Dude, just throw some fucking money and make it go away. That's a horrific visual, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to pass that digital collection plate around. I'm on Cash App. I'm on Cash App now. The concerned party knows who I'm talking to. I'm on Cash App now. I'm on Venmo. I'm on Zelle, Facebook Pay. I'm on damn near everything, really. If you guys want to throw me a little bit of coin, that would be really fucking cool. If you can't, I get it. We are still in a Biden economy, like it or not. Biden economy and a Biden presidency, and there's really not much we can do about that. But here's what you can do for me. If you don't want to throw me any coin, if you've got social media platforms, social media presence of your own, you can repost the sermon, turn other people onto it, let them know. All of my reverends, rangers, my sinner sisters, my prophets of doom out there, let them know, man, fat, toothless, crippled, just a crane operator with some opinions. But he's a kindred spirit and a like mind. He gets on a rants and raves for a couple hours every Sunday. Maybe you want to check it out. Post it to your platform. And in fact, if you're on a platform from which I have been banned or temporarily suspended, definitely repost it just to spite the motherfuckers, right? But get out there and spread the gospel, man. Turn people on to it. And talk, man. Talk amongst yourselves. Communicate. Expand each other's worldviews. Find that light. If you got somebody you see, like Jason, get dragged out of the deep water. Help that motherfucker swim. He's in the darkness getting buried by it, man. Show him the fucking light. And that brings us to what you can do, not just for me, but for yourself. So take it back to the directives, man. And I got to lead by example. I felt that conviction in my heart, and I'm trying to take it back in that direction, man. Signal to noise ratio is all fucked up. You got to be that signal. Not get bogged down in the noise. You got to be that signal that breaks through the fucking noise. They will try to bury you in the darkness. They will drag you out into it. They'll try to demoralize, dehumanize, emasculate you with the darkness. You have got to not just find the light, but be the light that breaks through the darkness. But above and beyond anything else, most important is the iron rule. You have to be that strength in a world full of weakness. You got to be that, man, because without the strength, you're not going to be able to be the signal that breaks through the noise. You're not going to be that light that breaks through the darkness. Strength above all. That's here, and down to your soul. I love you guys. I appreciate every one of you. I'm the Reverend. That is the gospel. Thanks for being here. Spread the word. I love y'all. Twin Falls, Idaho. Peace. See you next Sunday, man. Appreciate you guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.